The problem is that when the subject of troll romance is broached, our sparing human intellects instantly assume the most ingratiating posture of surrender imaginable. But we will do our best to understand regardless. Humans have only one form of romance, and though we consider it a complicated subject, spanning a wide range of emotions, social conventions, and implications for reproduction, it is ultimately a superficial slice of what trolls consider the full body of romantic experience. Our concept of romance, in spite of its capacity to fill our art and literature, and to rule our individual destinies like little else, is still just that, a single linear concept.
Rickard, we get it, shut up.
A concept usually denoted by a single symbol. Less than 3. That is it exactly. Troll romance is more complicated than that. Troll romance needs 4 symbols. Their understanding of romance is divided into halves, and halved again, producing 4 quadrants. Well, yeah, 4 quadrants, 4. The flush quadrant, the caligneous quadrant, the pale quadrant, and the ashen quadrant. Each quadrant is grouped by the half they share, whether horizontally or vertically, depending on the overlapping properties one examines. The sharpest dichotomy, from an emotional perspective, is drawn between red romance and black romance. Red romance, comprised of the flushed and pale quadrants, is a form of romance rooted in strongly positive emotions. Black romance, with its caligneous and ashen quadrants, is rooted in the strongly negative. On the other hand, the vertical bifurcation has to do with the purpose of the relationship, regardless of the emotions behind it. Those quadrants, which are concupiscent, word.
I don't care.
The flush and caligneous have to do with facilitating the elaborate reproductive cycle of trolls. Those which are conciliatory, the pale and ashen, would be more closely likened to platonic relationships by human standards.
Elaborate reproductive cycle of trolls. Okay. Ha ha.
Well, it's not like you know how trolls reproduce.
Well, no, all they gotta do is just do it in a bucket.
Except not. There are many parallels between human relationships and the various facets of troll romance. Humans have words to describe relationships of a negative nature or of a platonic nature. The difference is, for humans, those relationships could never be conceptually grouped with romance. Establishing those sort of relationships for humans is not driven by the same primal forces that drive our tendency to couple romantically. But for trolls, those primal forces involve themselves in the full palette of these relationships, red or black, toward or friendly. Trolls typically feel strongly compelled to find balance in each quadrant and seek gratifying relationships that each describes. The challenge is particularly torturous for young trolls, who must reconcile the wide range of contradictory emotions associated with this matrix, while understanding the nature of their various romantic urges for the first time. Of course, young humans have this challenge too, but for trolls, the challenge is fourfold.
Is it? Does it really need to be this?
Let's examine this flushed quadrant.
It does.
Aw.
When 2 individuals find themselves in the flush quadrant together, they are said to be matesprits. Matespritship is the closest parallel to the human concept of romance trolls have. It plays a role in the troll's reproductive cycle, just as it does for humans. This is pretty obvious. Not much more needs to be said about this. Moving right along.
Examine caligneous quadrant.
When a pair of adversaries delve into this quadrant, they become each other's kismasis. As one of the conspicuous... God damn it, that word! Quadrants. It plays a role in procreation as well. There's no particularly
Concupiscent.
good human translation for this concept. The closest would be an especially potent arch rivalry. For instance, human players would never be able to adequately diagnose the relationship between the queen and her arch-agent, but troll players could immediately place it as a dead ringer for kismasitude. They would think we were all pretty stupid for not getting it, and they would be right.
Or they would be stupid.
Yeah, I
have a complicated reproductive cycle. It's probably best not to examine it in much detail. The need to seek out concupiscent.
Concupiscent.
You don't know how to pronounce it either.
Concupiscent.
None of us know how to pronounce this word. Okay. Partners come with more urgency than typical reproductive instincts. When the Imperial drone comes knocking, you had better be able to supply genetic material to each of his filial pales. If you have nothing to offer, he will kill you without hesitation. The genetic material, without going into much detail, is a combinative genetic mix from the mate sprit and kismesis pairs, respectively. The pales are all offered to the mother grub, who can only receive such pre-combined material. She then combines all of it into one incestuous slurry and begins eating.
Ugh.
This doesn't mean the initial combination was for naught, however. In the slurry, more dominant genes, I hate the word slurry, more dominant genes rise to the fore, while the more recessive find less representation in the brood. Especially strong mate sprit and kismesis pairings yield more dominant genetic material. The more powerful the complement or potent the rivalry, the more dominant the genes. Troll reproduction sure is weird. We all take a moment to lament how pedestrian the human reproductive system is.
Oh, fuck you, Hussie.
And further lament that the phrase incestuous slurry is not a feature of common parlance in human
I'm actually kind of happy about that, Hussie.
Examine Ashen Quadrant.
Actually, I would like to hear that a lot more. Okay. This quadrant involves a particular type of three-way relationship of a black romantic nature. Falling on the conciliatory side, it has no bearing on the reproductive cycle, except for indirect ramifications. When two trolls are locked in a feud, or some otherwise contentious relationship, one can intervene and become their auspitus. The auspitus mediates between the two, playing the role of a peacekeeper, preventing the feud from boiling over into a fully collignous rivalry. Since much lesser feuds are quite common among trolls, there is a significant need for auspitizing parties. Without them, too many Ashen feuds would become collignous and begin to conflict with other exclusive kismesis relationships, leading to a great deal of social complexity and sore feelings, even more so than a black romance usually involves. Without auspicism, the result would be widespread black infidelity. The relationships each quadrant describes tend to be malleable, if not volatile, especially on the concupiscent half where more torrid emotions reside. It doesn't take much to flip a switch and transmute black rom feelings to red rom and vice versa. In many cases, one party will have red feelings while the other has black. But it will often be the case that one party's feelings will swap to match the other's, since there is no quadrant which naturally accommodates such a disparity. But thereafter, it's not uncommon for the two to toggle between red and black in unison now and then. These scenarios naturally result in both a red and black infidelities. This sort of relationship volatility is why conciliatory relationships are an important part of troll romance. I hate you so much right now, Hussie. An auspitus can stabilize particularly turbulent relationships. If the auspitus fails to mediate properly, or has no interest in the role, or perhaps has different romantic intentions herself altogether, then the relationship often quickly deteriorates into one of an especially hostile and torrid nature. There are many outside factors and influences tugging and pulling these relationships in different directions, and unlike humans who have very orderly, simple, straightforward romantic relationships without exception, trolls exist in a state of almost perpetual confusion and generally have no idea what the hell is going on. Being confused by troll relationships is one thing we do have in common, though.
Examine Pale Quadrant.
This quadrant presides over more allegiance, the other conciliatory relationship. A reasonable human translation would be the concept of a soulmate, but in a more platonic sense, and with a more specific social purpose. Trolls are a very angry and violent race. Some are more hot-tempered and dangerous than others, to the extent that, if left to their own devices, they would present a serious threat to society, or even to themselves. Such trolls will have an instinctive pale attraction to a more even-tempered troll, who may become their moirail. The moirail is obligated to pacify the other, to function as the better half. The two partners in a strong pale relationship will serve to balance and complement each other's emotional profiles, and thus allow their other relationships to be more successful. It's often ambiguous, especially among young trolls, whether a bond formed between an acquaintance is a true more allegiance and the usual variety of platonic involvement. Furthermore, romantic intentions of a more flushed nature can often be mistaken for paler leanings, much to the frustration of the suitor. But some pale pairings, as the one above, will be strikingly obvious to all who know them.
Yes.
No. And yet others will seem to have been hatched for each other.
Wait! More troll romance exposition, please!
God, you just can't get enough of this, can you? That would have been a great point for a transition out of this illustrated sociological study, but okay, if you insist. Now, see, what's going on here is... it's perfectly simple. When the full matrix of troll romance is in action, we have... hey, why don't you figure it out? You should be an expert on all this by now anyway.
No thanks.
Oh, thank you, Hussie. I think you're a hack.
Later, our troll hero will try to explain this to our human hero, attempting to convey all the nuance of troll romance through a nearly verbatim recitation of the preceding excerpts.
Why not wait until he does that, then? You're a horrible storyteller.
Describe how rich and textured the troll romantic comedies were compared to the one-dimensional schlock of our human cinematic counterparts. He would barely scratch the surface of Troll Will-Smith's virtuosity with the delicate lattice of troll romance, as he would assist the bumbling, fudge-blooded troll Kevin James through the interwoven minefield briar patch of red rom and black rom entanglements, all the while sifting through his own prickly romantic situation and ultimately learning the true meaning of hate and pity. But would they succeed before the Imperial drone came knocking with his thirsty pails at the ready? Yes, they would. But John doesn't understand any of this because he's a moron, and he wouldn't shut up about his awful bullshit Earth movies. He would just on and on and on about that garbage.
I think it's pretty obvious which side Hussie favors.
But if there was one theme to be hammered through his thick skull, it would be the troll's cultural preoccupation with romantic destiny. Yes, the romantic landscape is rife with false starts and miscues and infidelities, red and black. But every troll believes strongly that each quadrant holds one and only one true pairing for them, and it is just a matter of time before the grid is filled with auspicious matchups through the mysterious channels of troll serendipity. In short, their belief is that for each quadrant there exists a pair or triad of trolls somewhere in the cosmos that were made for each other. Wow, another great transition. You wonder if it will stick this time. You have no choice but to take a stab at the rare and extremely dangerous 2x transition combo.
Attempt 2x transition combo.
Looks like it worked. So, who is this guy anyway?
Is this the Australian guy?
It's the Australian guy.
Answer name.
Your name is Eridan Ampora.
Do something awesome. Squint. Gun.
Wait for it. Wait. There she
Whales! Whale sounds.
Swoop. Ah!
Oh my god.
Shit!
Earth.
Shit!
Fall.
I just killed Earth the manatee.
It's a whale.
Fish food. Okay, that guy is pretty much squared away. What about her?
And their name.
Your name is Feferi Paxis.
Do something adorable.
Shazoom. Yarrow.
This does not look all that adorable to me.
Catches the whale in the net. Dragging the whale while swimming.
Deeper.
Dragging it into the depths.
There's something there.
Oh, hi, random glowing pair of eyes.
Okay.
The whale gets thrown. And tentacles. Tentacles. Tentacles.
Earth, no!
Hi, giant tentacle monster.
It's a whale, not a manatee.
Earth, you didn't deserve this!
God
Well,
damn it.
I think the whale is dead.
Go home.
That should keep her quiet for a while, at least until she dies. Go home.
That should keep her happy for a while. And make a freshly orphaned troll somewhere pretty sad.
Examine block.
You conveniently return to your respite block so that we may study your variety of interests. This was very considerate of you. Flowing through your veins is nearly the richest blood the hemospectrum has to offer, penultimate on the scale. As such, you are a sea dweller, a sub-race of troll distinct from the commoners by mutation and habitat, a caste which rules over the entire species. Oh, I am really bad tonight. But ruling, in your view, is not enough. You have an overpowering genocide complex, and have made it your sworn duty to kill all land dwellers. You have amassed resources and deadly weaponry from around the world for this ambition through many sweeps of extreme role-playing, while pursuing a working doomsday device which will bring Armageddon to all those on the surface. Haven't had much luck with that, but maybe tonight's your night. You hold a fascination for military history and legendary conquerors. You have dubiously modeled your profile and exploits after the most notorious figures and their stories, which are bristling with the glory of victory and the sting of defeat, and political machinations and romantic intrigue. It is an image you are careful to craft through exaggerated emotional theatrics, and your penchant for mass murder notwithstanding, people tend to regard you as a bit of a tool. You also like magic, even though you know it to be fake, like a made-up friend the way wizards are. Made up, make-believe, fakey fakes. It's still fun, though. Your troll tag is Caligula's Aquarium, and you speak with a wavy, weird, and sort of wavy-sounding accent. You hold off on doing anything for the moment on account of courtesy to fellow royalty.
Examine block. Oh wait, that's someone else. That's you. Sorry.
Hoopla!
Sorry.
No more hooplas.
Hoopla!
Look.
On the subject of courtesy, you have also returned to your block so we can get a better look at you. Again, quite considerate. Royalty sure is civilized.
Hoopla.
No.
You're also a sea dweller. You have the most noble,
Nobel.
shut up, blood possible.
Why does she have
The only of your kind known to possess it, and the only to share it with the deep sea monster also known as the Rift's Carbuncle, emissary to the horror terrors. Or in more hushed tones, speaker of the vast club. This makes you the heir apparent for the Alternian rulership, which ordinarily would place you in considerable jeopardy. Her imperious condescension would steer the flagship from the fleet and make an attempt on your life herself, if not for the protection of your monstrous Lucius, sorry. And if not forewarned of your race's extinction by the whispers of that Lucius, you would have big plans for the throne. All of the plans. All of them. You would redefine what it means to be called in troll society. Under your rule, it would mean caring for the unfit and infirm rather than exterminating them. And you would have put this idea into practice by calling the fauna of the deep. You tend to wild and beautiful aquatic hoofbeats, grooming and feeding them daily. You capture and cage cuttlefish by the thousands for their own good, and also because they're funny and colorful and you love them. They often swim through the bars of their cages, but that's fine. You run your whole palace as a sort of wildlife adoption facility. Even if the wildlife's need for care is dubious at best, and the practice really just amounts to an elaborate role-playing scenario. It's still fun, though. You would also look forward to using your reign to unite the two races. You were told you would do this one day by your Lucis, even if it does contradict her message of extinction. Oh well, you suppose not all prophecies can come true. Your troll tag is Cuttlefish Color, and you have a hard time not getting really excited about practically everything.
That didn't do the Korean accent.
It's fine.
What will you both do?
Do something
Do
ridiculous.
something ridiculous. Yes.
Fuck yes.
Hell.
Fucking.
Yeah.